The very first manhwa I've ever read was a series titled Solo Leveling. At the time, this manhwa hadn't yet reached its conclusion. But was still regarded as one of the best manhwa to ever release. It had an unreal art style, an engaging world, and a mystery that left many of us wanting answers. No other manhwa with that genre at the time really had the same level of popularity or notoriety Solo Leveling achieved. Over the years, this series became a staple for upcoming works to follow when making an RPG-like story. Up to this point, outside of this manhwa, I've only really read manga and watched anime. But during that time, many whispers and talks began to surface about a new series. A series with the same video game-like aesthetic, an intricate and diverse world, and a story that would touch the heart of many people by the end of it. That very series would be titled Hardcore Leveling Warrior. Gaming has been a thing as early as the 1950s and throughout several decades evolved into something no one would have predicted years ago. It's a medium that allows one to sit back and fully immerse oneself into a new world, escaping reality and easing their mind for a few hours a day from the responsibilities of life. Following many different genres and forms of games resulted in the creation of some of the most iconic video games today. One form of a gaming device that has yet to reach its fullest potential is virtual reality gaming. Most VR games are clunky in mechanics, lack the diversity of games that you could play compared to any other device, and all in all, have this weird PlayStation 2 graphic look to them. Most of them just flat out suck. Of course, some games are an exception to the standard VR game. However, currently as it stands, VR is still underdeveloped, leaving much more to be desired compared to what's currently available. The concept and idea is still evolving, and many fans hope it could one day achieve the levels of a Sword Art Online or a Ready Player One. But what if there was a world that's similar to VR that allows one to fully be in the game without the restrictions of having to hold a controller? What if there was a game with an extensive world allowing for various different ways to approach the game to your liking? And what if there was a game that rewarded you and your efforts and transitioned your earnings to the real world? Well, that's exactly what Lucid Adventure is. Lucid Adventure is a virtual reality game that allows players to play while dreaming. In this world, players can do anything they want freely, make clans, fight against each other and bosses, and can take on quests. Pretty much anything you'd expect in a standard RPG. Because of the scale and popularity of the game, many people consider it a second world, giving people the opportunity to change their lives and become a celebrity or find job opportunities depending on how good of a player you are at the game. Victory and success in the game equals real-life wealth, status, and honor. One person to take advantage of this system is the #1 ranked player in the game, Hardcore Leveling Warrior, otherwise known as Ethan. Ethan has a reputation for being an unlikable guy with a pretty large sum of debt. We'll get into this later on. He's hated amongst his peers and by anyone who plays the game due to his overly cocky personality, his lack of empathy, and his super arrogant approach to everything he does. Randomly one day, he would be handed a quest alongside a contract. Without knowing the details, he signs the paper and is told to take out an SS grade monster worth approximately 20 million gold. This fight goes how you'd expect it, resulting in him easily overcoming the monster. But for some odd reason, despite killing the boss, no signs of a quest reward or completion icon is popping up. At this moment, you would think he'd be worried about this, but nope. He's more worried about his new armor having blood all over it. He would get ambushed by the townspeople, being set up, forcing him to fight against everyone else. Despite the number advantage they have because of his stats and level, he easily kills them in a matter of seconds, leaving all but one person left. Being only a level 3, he pays this guy no mind and tanks the hit, revealing it to be a Smurf. Remember the guy who was asking him for change earlier? And his response to this encounter was to smack him with said change. Talk about a full circle moment. Beating him up and taking all of his loot in the process, she leaves him there naked. Wait, huh? Getting robbed and being stripped down to your meat is crazy.
It's an evil world we live in.
In this world, when a character dies, all of your stats resets, placing you back to the level 1 and forcing you to restart back to the beginning. And since Hardcore Leveling Warrior dies in this encounter, he was forced back to the level 1 alongside all of his stats, with the goal of one day getting revenge against this character. Hardcore Leveling Warrior is a story that follows the journey of Ethan and how he goes from this arrogant guy to someone who slowly opens up and starts to trust people. The ultimate end goal for Ethan is revenge, but through this world and accepting the reality he's in, he starts to change bit by bit. Eventually in this story, he gets lumped into another contract for the sake of needing money and parties up with these two characters named Sora and Dark. One is a kid who strives to get stronger in order to find his grandfather, facing challenges of not being accepted or loved by his closest family members, while the other is someone who views Hardcore Leveling Warrior as their hero, since he saved her in a time where she felt all hope was gone. Every encounter and person they meet in this story has some sort of impact. It almost feels like with each interaction, Hardcore Leveling Warrior gains a bit of life from these experiences. The world is so vast and deep that you'd easily forget all of this is in a game. There's different fractions of leaders who rule certain parts of the land. Constant events, mini games, and tournaments be going on in the background. Various different and unique NPC interactions, as well as the element of RPG, brings that video game aesthetic to life. There's also class systems of tanks, attackers, and supports, monster rankings, and unique skills given to you as soon as you make your character. The variety of monsters keep each interaction fresh, keeping you guessing as to which monster would appear on the next floor of a dungeon or what random grade monster would appear in an event. The cool thing about this series is how fleshed out each character is, even the side characters. Everyone in this world has their own distinctive personalities and abilities that aligns with them. For example, Sora is a tank, but she's someone who knows how to eat. Seriously, the girl can eat a lot.
That's good. It's enough slices!
She has this unique skill where the more she eats, the stronger she becomes. And this skill is only heightened later on when she gets this sword that also scales with how much it can consume. There's this character who has this ability to spawn various guns and can change his bullets from regular to holy. And if really needed, when he's all out of options, the guy can kamikaze himself. You have this other character who's sort of a necromancy, who has this ability to spawn the undead, and she also has a unique skill called Soul Whisper that allows her to give the dead the knowledge of their past life memories and remembering the skills and title they had before they passed. And then you have the main character who has this gambling skill called Lucky Coin, where if he flips a coin, it gives him one of two options. If it lands on head, he gets a random stat or a massive buff, and if it lands on tails, he gets a debuff, and the enemy he's facing gets a chance to get a buff. Since this class is a gambler, most of his interactions and fighting style involves a high risk, high reward, aligning with his life in the real world. Ethan is someone who's lived a pretty hard life. It seems that without fail, misfortune has always been right by his side. He lost his parents in a tragic accident, leaving only him to be the sole survivor and forced to become an orphan. This would later affect his teenage life, often getting bullied and made fun of to the point that he drops out of school. Finding some luck with a part-time job, he would test his luck with gambling, something he honestly shouldn't have done. Gambling addictions is by far one of the worst addictions, almost as bad as a gacha game. Yeah. I can't do this. Burying himself with a ton of debt and earning trouble with loan sharks and higher ups. Since he now owed them a ton of money, he was forced to sign a contract and work in pretty much a sweatshop. Look at the meals that was given this man. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It wasn't until one day he would stumble upon Lucid Adventure and would change his life for the better. To him, discovering this game felt like it made up for his horrible life. Until, of course, he met that girl. An action manhwa entertainment stems from an author's ability to flow its action scenes nicely, while being able to make each encounter entertaining and creative. Take any fight from your favorite anime or manga, One Piece, Dandadan, Bleach, hell, even a sports series like Ping Pong. The fluidity of a scene, the stake and weight, the build-up and the creativity are all things that enhances and make a scene that much more memorable. Hardcore Leveling Warrior does all of that, but brings it up by tenfold. It's creative and unpredictable in this approach, has impact that makes you feel like you're experiencing every exchange of blows, and visually, it's tantalizing, luring your eyes on a different weapon, skills, and environment the world has to offer. Light spoilers, but I have to include this into the video. In chapter 41, Hardcore Leveling Warrior Party and another group he teamed up with are fighting against this guy who's said to be the most powerful demon in the universe. Prior to this fight, they just got done fighting against another high-ranking demon, so they're a bit exhausted and drained from that fight. They're trying all sorts of methods to defeat him, reviving the past devil they killed to go against him. Does not work. A coordinated attack of 3 does not work, leaving all but Sora, Dark, and our MC left. Dark at this point of the story has this ability called Deja Vu, where he can look into the future and see the outcome of an upcoming event. So pretty much think of Doctor Strange's ability in Infinity War. He looks into the future and sees that no matter what they do, the outcome always results in them losing. Until one changed future. So they run that event, but this time the MC gives Dark his coin before he dies, tossing it in the air, getting hit in the process, landing on heads, and in that split second, he rewinds the MC body back to a time where he was semi-leveled up, changing the whole energy and tone of the fight, putting all of their stakes on Ethan to win this fight. How did the fight go from here? Well, one of this manhwa's biggest appeal are its fight sequences. Because of the world and setting, Kim Sihon, that's the author by the way, has so much more to play around and experiment with. The various type of monsters, the sheer scale of the world and areas, the different powers and playstyles, and the mystery aspect of it all demands your attention at all times. I promise you, there isn't going to be a time where you're bored when reading this manhwa. But what I think is the true art and beauty of this series are the moments when a story allows you to see how each players interact with each other. Every person in this world, despite playing the game, all have their own story and struggles. Some are socially awkward, others struggle to find work in the real world, and some have no choice but to play the game out of fear for their life. But at the end of the day, they're able to come together and forget those things when playing Lucid Adventure. Watching the development of a guy like Ethan go from how he was at the beginning of the story, bloom into someone who starts to care for others and builds relationships is truly amazing. He's experienced many hardships in his life, both in the real world and in the game. So he's aware of what it's like to be hurt and down. Yes, he has flaws. Yes, he is imperfect, but he's a breath of fresh air, a character type you rarely see nowadays. And to me, is the reason why I and many others love this manhwa so much.